Assalamu alaikum, students. How are you? I'm Dr. Faisal Yaqub, demonstrator from the anatomy department. So, in the previous lecture, you studied the flexor retinaculum and the carpal tunnel. Now, in this lecture, I'll show you the deep fascia of the hand, which includes the extensor retinaculum and the palmar aponeurosis, and also we study the compartments of the palm.
So this extensor retinaculum, it is a thickened band of deep fascia that runs across the back and sides of the wrist, and it is about 2.5 centimeter in width, and it holds the extensor tendons in place. These are the extensor muscles, and this is the extensor tendons. Okay, so this extensor retinaculum, basically it functions is that it holds the extensor tendons in place and facilitates their action by acting as a pulley, and its proximal attachment is to the anterior and lateral border of the radius above the styloid process. So this is the thumb side and this is the radius bone. Okay, so its proximal attachment is to the anterior and lateral border of the radius above the styloid process, and it is not attached to the ulna. And distal attachment is to the carpal bones, which are the pisiform and triquetral bones. So laterally, the extensor retinaculum is attached to the anterior border of the radius, and from here the fiber runs medially and distally to be attached to the triquetral and pisiform bones. Okay, from the deep surface of the extensor retinaculum, these fibrous septa pass to the bones of the forearm, dividing the extensor tunnel into the 6 compartments from where these extensor tendons they passes. Okay, later I show you it in detail. So here in this picture you can easily see the 6 compartments that are formed. So the most lateral compartment, so this is the radius bone and this is the ulna. So this is the radius bone and this is the lateral side and this is the medial side. So the most lateral compartment, it lies over the lateral surface of the radius at its distal extremity, and through it passes the tendons of abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis, each one lying in the separate synovial sheath. And these synovial sheaths, later you study it in detail. So the next compartment, it extends further as far as the dorsal tubercle and conveys the tendon of extensor carpi radialis longus and extensor carpi radialis brevis. So these are the radial extensors of the wrists and they lie in a separate synovial sheath. So the groove on the ulnar side of the radial tubercle, it lodges the tendon of extensor pollicis longus. This is, you can see, which lies with its own within its own compartment invested with a synovial sheath. So between the groove and the ulnar border of the radius is a digitorum lie that is crowded with the tendon of extensor indicis. So this is the extensor digitorum and this is the extensor indicis. And all these 5 tendons in this compartment, they are covered with a common synovial sheath. So the next compartment, it lies over the radio-ulnar joint and transmits the tendon of extensor digiti minimi in a separate synovial sheath. And lastly, the groove near the base of the ulnar styloid transmits the tendon of extensor carpi ulnaris in its synovial sheath. So these are the 6 compartments that are formed. So you have to remember that there are 6 compartments that are formed under the extensor retinaculum, and through these the tendons of extensor muscles passes and you have to memorize each compartment and also memorize that from each compartment which tendons passes, okay, and along with its synovial sheath and where it is located. So we have to memorize that which structures passes deep to the extensor retinaculum and which structures passes superficial to extensor retinaculum. So this is the radius bone and this is the lateral side and this is the ulna and this is the medial side. So the structures that passes deep to the extensor retinaculum from medial to lateral side is extensor carpi ulnaris tendon. So this is the extensor carpi ulnaris tendon and it grooves the posterior aspect of the head of the ulna, and then extensor digitorum and extensor indicis tendon, and it is present between the groove on the ulnar side of the radius, and then extensor pollicis longus tendon, which is winds around the medial side of the dorsal tubercle of the radius, and then extensor carpi radialis longus and radialis brevis tendon that shares a common synovial sheath and are situated on the lateral part of the posterior surface of the radius. And then abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis tendons that have separate synovial sheaths but share a common compartment. And the structures that passes superficial to the extensor retinaculum from medial to lateral side. So this is the thumb and this is the lateral side, and this is the medial side and ulnar side. Okay, this is the extensor retinaculum. So structures passing superficial to the extensor retinaculum from medial to lateral side. Dorsal cutaneous branches of the ulnar nerve. So this is the ulnar nerve, its cutaneous, dorsal cutaneous branches. Okay, dorsal cutaneous branches or posterior cutaneous branch of the ulnar nerve. It passes superficial. Here you can see this ulnar nerve, its cutaneous branch, it passes superficial to the extensor retinaculum. And then basalic vein and cephalic veins. Okay, these are the superficial veins that also passes to the superficial to the extensor retinaculum, and then this superficial branch of the radial nerve. This is the radial nerve and its superficial branch, it also passes superficial to the extensor retinaculum. Okay, so it is very important, you have to memorize that which structures passes deep to the extensor retinaculum and which structures passes superficial to the extensor retinaculum, and always remember the sequence from medial to lateral side or lateral to medial side. Uh, so, uh, 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 Extensor retinaculum, it is the deep fascia on the back of the wrist, and now this palmar aponeurosis, it is the thickening of deep fascia which is on the palm of the hand, and it is a triangular thickening of the deep fascia in the central area of the palm of the hand, and it covers the lumbrical and flexor tunnels between the thenar and hypothenar eminence. So this is the thumb and this is the radial side and this is the medial side. So at the base of the thumb, this is the fleshy part is the thenar eminence, and this palmar aponeurosis, it is thin over the thenar eminence, and it is also thin over the hypothenar eminence, and at the base of the little finger, this is the hypothenar eminence. So proximally, this palmar aponeurosis, it is triangular in shape as you can see in this picture, and proximally it is attached. Attached to the palmaris longus tendon. So the apex of the palmar aponeurosis receives the insertion of palmaris longus tendon, and the base it is divides at the base of the fingers into four slits. Here you can see these four slits, and these are also known as pretendinous bands, and each slit divides into two bands, and one passing superficially to the skin and the other passing deep to the fuse with the fibrous flexor sheaths and the deep transverse ligaments. Okay, so this deep fascia, this palmar aponeurosis in the fingers, it forms the digital sheath. Later you study it in detail. So the function of this palmar aponeurosis is to give the firm attachment to the underlying skin and improve the grip and protect the underlying tendons.
This Dupuytren contractures, it is the disease of the palmar fascia that results in progressive shortening, thickening, and fibrosis of the palmar fascia and aponeurosis. Okay. Their fibrous degeneration of the longitudinal bands of the palmar aponeurosis on the medial sides of the hand pulls the fourth and the fifth fingers into the partial flexion at the metacarpophalangeal and proximal interphalangeal joints. Okay, this Dupuytren contracture is bilateral and is more common in men which are above the age of 50 years. The disease, it manifests as painless nodular thickenings of the palmar aponeurosis that adheres to the skin. Okay, these are the nodular thickenings which adhere to the skin, and the progressive contracture of the longitudinal band produced raised ridges in the palmar skin that extend from the proximal part of the hand to the base of fourth and fifth fingers. And treatment of this Dupuytren contracture involves surgical excision of all fibrotic parts of the palmar fascia to free the fingers. So in this picture you can also clearly see the Dupuytren contracture, and remember it is the on the medial side of the hand, and fourth and fifth finger it is pulled into the partial flexion at the metacarpophalangeal and proximal interphalangeal joints. Okay, so these it is the typical picture of the Dupuytren contracture. Okay, so there are five compartments that are formed in the hand, and the intrinsic muscles of the hand, they are located in these five compartments. You have to memorize the names of these compartments and also memorize where they are located and how they are formed. Okay, first of all, the medial fibrous septum. This is the medial fibrous septum. It extends from the medial border of the palmar aponeurosis to the fifth metacarpal bone. So this is the fifth metacarpal bone. This is the ulnar side. This is the radial side. This is the one, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Okay. So the medial fibrous septum, it extends from the deeply from the medial border of the palmar aponeurosis to the fifth metacarpal bone, and medial to this septum is the medial or hypothenar compartment that contains the hypothenar muscles, and bounded anteriorly by the hypothenar fascia. Similarly, the lateral fibrous septum, so this is the lateral fibrous septum, it extends deeply from the lateral border of the palmar aponeurosis to the third metacarpal bone. This is the third metacarpal bone, and lateral to this septum is the lateral or thenar compartment that contains the thenar muscles and bounded anteriorly by the thenar fascia. Between the thenar compartment and the hypothenar compartment is the central compartment that is bounded anteriorly by the palmar aponeurosis and containing the flexor tendons, the lumbricals of flexor tendons, their sheaths, the lumbricals, the superficial palmar arterial arch, and the digital vessels and nerves. The deepest plane of the palm is the adductor compartment that contains the adductor pollicis. Between the flexor tendons and the fascia covering the palmar muscles are the two potential spaces. So this is the thenar space and this is the mid-palmar space. Okay, later you study it in detail. At this stage only just memorize that these spaces are also present between the flexor tendons and the fascia covering the deep palmar spaces. The spaces, they are bounded by the fibrous septa passing from the edges of the palmar aponeurosis to the metacarpals. Okay, between the two spaces is so this is the thenar space and this is the mid palmar space. Between two spaces is the lateral fibrous septum that attaches from the lateral border of the palmar aponeurosis to the third metacarpal. And although all facial compartments, they end at the joints, the mid palmar space, it continues with the anterior compartment of the forearm via the carpal tunnel. Okay, between the metacarpal is the interosseous compartment that contains the interosseous muscles. Okay, so there are five compartments. The hypothenar compartment that contains the hypothenar muscles. Later these muscles you study it in detail. The thenar compartment contains the thenar muscles, and these muscles later you study it in detail. Between the thenar and hypothenar is the central compartment, in which the short muscles of the hand, the lumbricals, are present along with the long flexor tendons and their sheaths. And then the adductor compartment, it contains the adductor pollicis, and the interosseous compartment between the metacarpals that contains the interossei. Okay. So we study these compartments of the hand, and this compartment syndrome it develops when there is bleeding or swelling occurs within the compartment. Okay. This compartment syndrome it occurs when there is pressure within the compartment. It restricts the blood flow to the area and causes damage to the muscles and the nearby nerves and vessels. Okay, if this compartment syndrome can occur anywhere in the body. It can also occur in the legs, feet, arms, and these compartments they are present in the hand, so it also occurs in the hand. Okay, in this compartment syndrome, the fascia it cannot stretch, so it causes increased pressure on the capillaries, nerves, and muscles in the compartment, and blood flow to the muscles and nerves is disturbed. So the symptoms that are associated, signs and symptoms that are associated with the compartment syndrome, there are 5 P's you can remember. There is pain in the region, pale skin tone, paresthesia, that is numbness feeling, that is loss of sensation, pulselessness, and paralysis, that is weakness with the movements. Okay, so there is pain, there is paresthesia, numbness, and there is paralysis and weakness of the movements. Okay, there is loss of digital motions, and there is swelling in the hand, and the metacarpophalangeal joints they are extended, and the proximal interphalangeal joints they are flexed. Okay, also you study it in detail when you study the spaces, then also you study these compartment syndrome in detail. Okay. Okay, students. So at the end of the lecture, so this is 3 questions. These are the assignment questions. You have to tell what is the Dupin-Twines contracture and name the compartments of the palm. Only just name them, and also tell that from the deep surface of the extensor retinaculum, the fibrous septa pass to the bones of the forearm, dividing the extensor retinaculum into the 6 compartments. Okay, so you have to name the muscles, extensor muscles, tendons that pass from the each compartment. Okay, you only just name the tendons that are present in each compartment. Thank you.